We're steadily getting around to finishing off the retro Metal Gear games with the last canonical one from the MSX2, Metal Gear 2, and without a doubt this is where Kojima finally came into his own. While playing Metal Gear is what you expect from a A to B retro title, just keep pushing to the final boss and hope you don't die along the way. Ultimately, that game was bland all the way through and lacked the punch that I expected from the franchise. What Metal Gear 2 gained from 3 years of MSX2 development was the voice of the Metal Gear series. The story tells of a place called Zanzibar Land that has amassed nuclear and military capabilities alongside weapons reduction, meaning that they have invading capabilities, and more recently, they've captured Dr. Marv, who was developing Oilix, the world's last remaining source of oil. With this threat, Foxhound has called in Solid Snake to go in and save the Oilix project from the Zanzibar terrorists. The story then falls back into the traditional Metal Gear playstyle, an explorative stealth 'em up where you get objectives from Campbell and the radio voices help you get around. Metal Gear 2 does show that it's more of an adventure game than most others with some really weird logic. Aside from the owl puzzle, which is just blindingly moronic on the enemy's parts, there's invisible holes in walls and an entire invisible road on the swamp, finding an ally using a female bathroom that shouldn't exist, a heat-cold sensitive key that the game doesn't explain, and lastly, being able to find plot-important items on a carrier pigeon. It makes for an interesting gameplay package, but just like nonsense adventure games, you're gonna have to look it up. Which is pretty fair because the game also has copy protection puzzles in its booklet. One of the bigger issues of the game is that unlike Metal Gear Solid, which had been designed to be a forward progression to a fault, Metal Gear 2 has a lot of backtracking, especially in the prison camp onwards, where it's obvious that Kojima Productions stopped making puzzles and just jam-packed characters to fill out the plot. There's one point in the game where you have to go from the end of the map to the beginning of that area to get a key that the game just forgot to tell you about because nobody thought that it was important to save Dr. Marv, and while the outcome of the Dr. Marv character arc was exceptionally done, what would a Hideo Kojima game be without hilariously horrible writing that's reserved for character dialogue? When Solid Snake meets Holly in person, it's such a botched job of trying to create romance that the only appropriate response to it is to either cringe or be hysterical, since Solid Snake is all the romantic subtlety of the Hindenburg disaster. And then there's the Gustavo moment in the sewer where after 2 questions, she spills out her entire tragic backstory to Solid Snake, like she has it all scripted in her head for anyone who asks her at any time. And while the story in of itself is treated with dignity, it's kind of undercut when she ends up being shot to bits 2 minutes later. The characters that were brought over from Outer Heaven carried the whole revenge against Solid Snake better for various reasons. Schneider thought he'd abandoned everyone at Outer Heaven, Dr. Madnar's pride in his work, and Big Boss wanted to maintain his mercenary state. But then there are characters like Red Blaster and the Four Horsemen who seem that they're there at Zanzibar Land basically for a job and don't get any fleshing out. Hell, it probably would have been amazing if one of them turned out to be shoot gunner or fire trooper or something and got all this amazing training so that they became a lot better than they usually are. The one thing that gets me about this game was that it was brought out on the MSX2, which previously housed the comparatively mediocre Metal Gear. So maybe the computer was better worked with after all that time, or maybe Kojima was just being lazy in '87, because this game has a save function, useful radar, the traditional 3-stage alarm system, great animations and art direction, and overall was a game way ahead of its time that served as a better base for the rest of the series than Snake's Revenge could ever hope to be, because you just can't have a Metal Gear game without Kojima's certifiable brand of insanity. Well guys, the last game on Metal Gear's retro laundry list is gonna be Metal Gear Ghost Bobble, the only Game Boy title from the series, so the jump in generation should be interesting to see what Konami does with it. So until then, victory for gamers, and we'll see you around next time in a cardboard box.